Hey guys, it's Shelly and Jason, and we're back with another kitchen conversation. It's been a super duper long time.
Like year.
Yeah, a long time. But it's for good reason, because we have some exciting news. We are working on a little project, and we hope to launch it. We hope to launch it here in a couple of months. So stay tuned for more details on that. And then also just wanted to plug this workbook that I published and released in June. And it's called Rescued, and it's a workbook exclusively for wives that are going through this process with their husband or maybe without their husband. But it's really just a compilation of a lot of what I've learned over the last 12 years and some of the big ticket items like forgiveness and anger and then and then some other things. So you can purchase this on the website rl4women.com.
Yeah, and this is a phenomenal resource. Even people who have written workbooks to help wives have commented on how great this material is. So super excited about that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do our video.
Let's do it. Go.
All right.
Am I starting in the stream? Okay.
All
right. So we're talking in this video. We're talking about acting in. And so some people don't even know what that language is about, what that means.
Right.
But acting in is kind of like the flip side of the coin of acting out. So acting out is doing all the things we do: pornography, masturbation, prostitutes, strip clubs, name it.
All the things we do?
That's sexual acting out, right? The flip side of that coin is acting in, which is the process, if you will, the dynamic, if you will, of keeping people at arm's length outside my heart. So that I don't get hurt. So
it's self-protection.
It's total self-protection.
Okay. And we all do it.
We all do it, definitely.
Okay.
On some level, we all do it. But guys that struggle with sexual integrity issues,
they're professionals.
Professionals, yeah. And I joke, one night staying at the Embassy Suites for one of the workshops, you know, you've got the little thing that you hang on the door that says "Do not disturb," and this right here to me just says exactly what acting in is. And it says, "I'm in here, you're out there. Let's keep it that way a little longer." And I feel like for a lot of guys, what we do is we sort of take this little thing and we kind of hang it on our heart, and that's the way we live. You know, it's like, I'm in here, you're out there. Let's just keep it that way, right? And the unfortunate reality of that is, you can't get in to hurt me, but you also can't get in to help me. You can't get in to heal me. And we do this with our spouses, we do this with other people, and we do this with God as well, right? So let's talk about some of the ways that we do that.
Okay.
Right?
And I would propose that probably for men that do a lot of acting in, they primarily do it with their spouse. They might not do it with other people, but they do it with the person closest to them.
Definitely do. Definitely do.
All right.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
For sure.
So there's what, 10 or 11?
There's a bunch.
Okay.
Right.
So let's talk about some of them.
And rather than go into detail about all of them, let's just talk about like kind of what they are at a high level, right? Okay. So blame, shame, criticize, stonewall, avoid, hide, not initiate, withhold love, lie, excuse, use anger to control.
Okay.
To name a few.
Okay.
Right. And all of those are techniques, well-honed techniques that we use to keep people at arm's length. Right. And so I remember back early on, we've kind of joked about this before in video, but early on in our marriage, like, you would literally chase me around the house saying, "We're going to talk to me. We're going to have a fight. Let's talk and get through this." And I'd be like, "Oh no, we're not," right? Not going to go there. To the point where chasing me upstairs, downstairs, and I'd lock myself in the bathroom. Yeah. Because I didn't want to go there.
I talk about that in the workbook, actually.
Do you? That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't think I remember that, actually.
Yeah.
So my point is with that, like, sometimes it's literally a physical thing, even, that says, "I don't want to go there with you." Right? The hiding. I mean, that's avoiding and hiding.
Right.
But let's make that more tangible to today, like how that works. Okay. Right? So I want to talk about an example from real life today.
Okay.
Right. So a couple weeks ago, Shelly and I were having a conversation, and the feedback that you were giving me, I had asked your opinion about something, but the feedback that you gave me, I didn't like, first of all. And when it hit me, it felt like, number one, it tapped into my insignificance. Like, if I really mattered, you would let me do whatever I'm asking I could do. And the second thing is, it felt like, it felt like I was in a catch-22 and powerless, because I thought that you had previously said, you're fine with me doing this thing. You're like, oh yeah, that's great. And then now I'm asking you, and you're like, well, not so much. I'd rather you do this.
What was the thing?
It was about me going and meeting with a guy that I've been wanting to talk to. But it was when I was going to be out of town. And so I was going to have to sort of extend my trip.
Yes.
You remember this now?
Yes.
Right. I was going to extend my trip, and you're like, oh yeah, do that. And then when it came down to booking my ticket, you're like, oh, I'd rather you.
Right.
And I'm like, you already said it was okay. Now you're changing your mind, right? Which is like one of the key things that is, so acting in has multiple names. Acting in, intimacy aversion, intimacy anorexic. You'll hear all these different names. One of the key features of that is I'm good with intimacy as long as it doesn't feel like rejection, criticism, or any of that to me. Right?
Yeah. Which isn't real life.
Which is not real life.
Well, okay, so the reaon I was like, hold up, what are you talking about? Because, you know, you have called me a control enthusiast in front of large groups of people.
And was I
So I'm kind of saving face here, because there's a part of me that's like, okay, these people are going to think that I like tell you what to eat for breakfast every morning or something, you know.
That's not true.
But we do have 3 little boys, and I do need your help around here.
It's pragmatic. It's totally pragmatic.
Keep going.
Long story short, when it hit me, you said, you could tell that it struck me, and you're like, do we need to talk about this more? And I said, no, I don't want to talk about it more. And went into silent mode, right? Sitting on the couch 3 feet from each other, it's just silent, cold war, you know? And so in that moment, I was shaming you for having changed your mind, even without saying anything. I was blaming you for my bad mood. I was avoiding more conversation. I was not initiating any conversation. I was withholding love from you, and I was stonewalling. I mean, there was 6 I did in one fell swoop, right? And all of that is that self-protective thing that says, you're out there, I'm in here, let's keep it that way, because I don't want to be hurt by you anymore. Right?
So let's talk about what happens, though, because, I mean, for a moment, you feel something positive from doing that, right?
Yeah, I mean, in the moment, you feel powerful. You get this little jolt of like, I'll show you kind of thing.
Yes, but ultimately it leads to more isolation and feeling unknown. You know, like, okay, you don't really know what's going on with me. Misunderstood.
Totally.
Which then leads to guilt and shame.
Right.
And when we feel that toxic guilt and toxic shame, we are looking for a way to feel better.
Right.
And so it increases the chance of acting in or acting out.
Totally.
Correct?
Yeah. So in that interaction, whenever there's some interaction that pings my heart that makes me want to push back, whatever it is that struck me, you know, emotionally, there's a need there. And it could be forgiveness, it could be reconciliation, it could be acceptance. You know, there's a legitimate emotional need there. But when I stonewall, criticize, shame, avoid, hide, not initiate, when I do all of that stuff, I'm basically saying you will not meet my needs. Right. And needs, I kind of say,
I will punish you, but actually it's punishing yourself.
But actually it's punishing me, and I kind of describe that as like a kettle on a stove.
Okay.
Where we have a little interaction and I get that ping on my heart. Well, the stove turned on and the kettle's starting to heat up.
Yep.
And then life happens. We have another one of those, and the kids don't listen, and my boss is a jerk, and life goes on. And all these things are, they're pinging my heart and turning up the stove.
Yep.
And eventually when the kettle whistles, what takes over is automatic response. It's what I always do when I get to max capacity. And for a lot of guys, that's go back and act out.
Right.
And so it's a cycle. I act in, which leads to acting out. Once I've acted out, I don't want to go be in relationship, so I act in, which leads to more acting.
Vicious cycle.
Totally. Vicious cycle.
Wow.
And for a lot of wives, they'll say of their husbands in the recovery process, it's been months since he's acted out, and they really believe that, but they know something's missing. They're sort of going, I thought things would be better when you stopped acting out. They can't really articulate it. They don't really know a lot of times the language to put to it, but what they're describing is
acting in.
The gap that is acting in.
And it makes sense. I mean, if we take away a coping mechanism, it seems logical that other coping mechanisms would ratchet up.
Right.
So it makes sense.
Right.
So one more thing I want to say. Do you have anything else you want to say?
No, we're
good. So one more thing I want to say is, wives act in as well. Some more than others. And I would say actually in our relationship, I would say I get the gold medal for acting in more so than you.
On the surface level, I agree with you. I think over the course of our marriage, there have been times when I'm going, Cold War weekend with Shelley.
Totally. Like where I just...
keyword weekend.
Yeah, right? Like I pull up the drawbridge, I put alligators in the moat.
And it's like,
and
do not disturb, don't go in there.
Yes.
But I think what's the X factor in that is so many wives that live that way, they've got their own issues and junk and baggage that drives that. But they're in relationship with someone who's keeping them stiff-armed day in and day out.
Yeah.
And so some of it's just simply protective.
That's true.
Some of it's like, I'm tired of putting my heart on the line with you and being vulnerable, getting shut down and shamed again. So you can't take the gold medal because on some level you were just responding to my prompting. Right?
And maybe that's one of the beautiful things of our recovery. I feel like as you have learned how to do life more healthy, I have too.
Intimacy more healthily.
Yes, like as you have opened yourself up and said, hey, I want to be fully known, flaws and all, I'm like, oh, me too. I want to do that too. And really the antidote to acting in or acting out is what?
True intimacy.
Which is, how would you describe that?
Being fully known. Going into the Cold War cave and going, okay, now I want to be in relationship with this person.
Yes.
So here's what I'm feeling. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's what's going on with me. Can we accept each other right where we are in this? Here's the thing.
Here's who I am. Faults and all.
Yes.
Broken and all. This is me.
So our video is running long, but I want to speak to this because there's a little bit of a caveat in there. Because I hear this all the time. In the early days of recovery, and by early I mean like day 1 from disclosure discovery to like day 700, like the first couple years, right? The first couple years, guys will say like,
2 years.
She wants me to share, and I'm sharing. I'm telling her how I feel, but every time I do, she just shuts me down and tells me I shouldn't feel that way. And he's going, I'm trying to be intimate, but she doesn't want it. She says she does, but she doesn't want it. And so I hear this over and over and over again. And the deal is, today we're in a relationship after a decade of doing this where I can share the things about you that hurt me, the ways that you interact with me that hurt me, and you can receive them. There's enough currency in our account that you can receive them.
Yes.
In the beginning, there's not.
Right. I mean, as you're saying that, like what guys are saying, I'm like, well, of course not. She doesn't feel safe. There's no stable ground for you to be like, hey, I had a terrible day at work. I feel like a failure. I'm super insecure right now. And, like, no, that's too much, because at the end of year 2, it is still typically shaky ground.
Yeah. I mean, I remember our counselor, me telling him, like, dude, what do I do? She's saying things that are just killing me, And he's like, it's okay to tell her that it hurts you. And I remember being like, Shelley, what you're saying is hurting me. And you saying, oh, well, sorry, right now I'm still not there, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to say, on video, like on record, in the beginning, if what you're sharing as a husband having done the betrayal, if what you're sharing is stuff about your wife that hurts you and there are things about her character and her intimacy stuff, that is probably not going to go well.
No. And I think that's where we got to wrap this up. But I think that's why it's so important for men to have accountability partners, some wise men that they can go to them and
vent all
say,
that stuff.
I feel really insecure, I
Feel
think I lost my
rejected.
job today, or whatever. Yes.
Feel rejected
And not
by
to
her.
their wife.
Totally.
Early on
Totally.
in the
Right.
process. And of course that's different for every couple.
Which,
Timeline.
just to say again for the record, when you go to accountability partners and do that and vent and have that relationship, what you're doing is intimacy.
Yes.
You're training.
practicing.
You're training.
Yes.
That's exactly
In a
right.
safe place.
Yeah. That's right.
We're pro support groups, accountability
Definitely.
partners. That's for
Huge
sure.
deal.
Okay.
Okay, let's
So I
stop.
think we're done.
Okay.
Okay. Bye guys.
Thank you.